بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. بادئا في بدء نرحب بالسادة الحضور، ويسرنا أن نبدأ بتقديم أعمال ورشة العمل التي ينظمها مجلس التطوير الاقتصادي بالتعاون مع مؤسسة كراون ايجنتس. طبعا مجلس التطوير الاقتصادي من خلال تنظيم مثل هذه الورش يهدف إلى رفع مستوى بيئة العمل وتطويرها، وكذلك إلى زيادة الوعي بمثل هذه المفاهيم. في البداية مؤسسة كراون ايجنتس باختصار شديد قبل ما نعطيهم الفرصة للحديث عن أنفسهم، هي أحد المؤسسات أصلاً إنجليزية وتشتغل عبر العالم مع العديد من القيادات في دول العالم لأجل إحداث التغيير المطلوب الإيجابي وجعل العالم مكان أفضل للعيش، وتقدم العديد من البرامج من خلال خبرائها في مجالات الإدارة المحلية والتطوير المؤسسي والتدريب، وتعمل مع هذه القيادات الإدارية في العديد من دول العالم من أجل تحقيق أهداف الألفية والقضاء على الفقر والمرض والتخلف والجهل. طبعا جدول أعمال ورشة العمل حيكون على يومين. اليوم الأول هو اليوم إن شاء الله حيتناول موضوع التبادل التجاري، وفي اليوم الثاني اللي هو بكرة حيكون الحديث حول منظومة الشباك الموحد. طبعا نتمنى أن تكلل أعمال هذه الورشة بالنجاح، ونتمنى أن تكون ذات فائدة وجدوى وتعمل على تطوير بيئة العمل في ليبيا. وأنا أغتنم هذه الفرصة أني أقدم اعتذاري إذا كان هنالك أي تقصير، خاصة فيما يتعلق بتحديد مكان انعقاد الورشة نظرا لظروف خارجة عن إرادتنا. ونرحب بكم مجددا، ونرحب بالسادة من مؤسسة كراون ايجنتس. وبسم الله نبدأ أعمال ورشة العمل. يتفضل السيد ستيف بريدي للحديث عن مؤسسة كراون ايجنتس وما يتعلق به أعمال هذه الورشة. Yes, Mr. Steve.
Good morning. My name is Steve Brady, and I am the Director of Crown Agents Customs and Trade Facilitation Division. I would like to add my warm welcome to all of you. Crown Agents is very proud to be supporting this workshop sponsored by the National Economic Development Board. And I would like to emphasise that this is a workshop, and we hope that all of you will be active participants and share with us your experience and opinions. Not just share with us, but share with the group as a collective. Knowledge sharing and learning is not just between the participants and the facilitators. It's probably even more important to learn from the experience of all participants in the group. But firstly, and by way of introduction, I would like to say a few brief words about Crown Agents. The Crown Agents is an international development company owned by the Crown Agents Foundation, committed to helping build the capacity of governments to bring about positive change and achieve sustainable economic growth. Our long history and broad experience in international trade puts us in an exceptional position as both a practitioner in international trade processes and procedures, but also as a designer of the processes and practices used in the administration and operation of international trade. We're also an acknowledged leader in developing the single window concept and seeing it through to successful delivery. I can give you some examples. We're members of the United Nations CFAT Technical Working Group, which designs and promulgates the international standards for implementing the single window. UN CFAT's work in turn contributes to the World Customs Organization's single window data models. We've also played a leading role in the Africa Alliance for E-Commerce, and work with the Association of Southeast Asian States to lay the foundations for a regional single window. At present, we are designing and implementing national single windows in the Philippines and in Kyrgyzstan, and providing advice on implementing national single windows to member countries of the Central Asia Regional Economic Community, as well as the Dominican Republic and member states of the Caribbean. But why is trade important? And why is trade facilitation so important? The government of Libya thinks that trade is important. This is proved by the National Economic Development Board's sponsoring of this workshop. International organisations such as the World Bank think that trade is important. It says, trade is an important driver of economic growth and development. Integration into world markets allows producers to specialise and reap the benefits of economies of scale. Trade also gives firms and households the opportunity to buy goods, services and knowledge produced anywhere in the world. Where I come from, in the UK, our economy has greatly benefited from trade, and the UK government thinks that trade is important. It says trade is the lifeblood of global economies. Trade is a stimulus for growth and productivity and allows a country to expand its horizons beyond its natural boundaries. Trade has a direct income on poverty. On average, an increase in trade volumes of 10% will raise incomes by 5%. Crown Agents believes that without trade, economies cannot grow. Sustainable development is dependent on economic growth, which is driven by trade. I don't think any government can build a future for its people without supporting business, trade and investment. This requires that the right policies and practices are established to build the foundations for growth generation. The opportunities presented by international trade are an important tool to help in emerging economies stimulate growth, raise incomes, create jobs. Free trade can also help towards improving food security. However, many parts of the world remain poorly integrated into the global economy and need broader regional integration that will lead at the same time to strengthening links in global markets. I think the experience of most developed countries demonstrates the significant role that trade can play in stimulating growth and enhancing economic development. Evidence also suggests that trade has been one of the most powerful catalysts for economic transformation in emerging economies. Crown Agents supports governments that can help the public policy environment and institutional framework necessary to foster inward investment, and also helps build the capacity necessary to enable private sector trade-led economic growth. Trade is important, and the Crown Agents is pleased to support this important workshop sponsored by the National Economic Development Board. I would like to wish all of you well for a productive and enjoyable 2 days. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to hand over to my colleague, John Warden, who will be the facilitator for the first session. Thank you very much.
I wish I could give the rest of my presentations in Arabic. But if I did, I think you would be very, very confused, because I think I know 4 words in Arabic. I can say shukran, I can say afwan, but I was told, when I first started working in the Middle East, I was told the most important words, the most important phrase I needed to know was shuay shuay. So I'm going to try and be shuay shuay for the translators as much as anything. It really gives me, my name is John Walden, I should have started by telling you my name. It gives me great pleasure to be here. I and the team, we arrived on Sunday in fact, and I think we've all been impressed by the warmth and the hospitality of all the people that we've met so far on this trip, so we are really delighted to be here. I just want to give a short introduction to the programme and to some of the administration that will cover the whole of the programme. The first thing I want to talk about is translation. I can see some of you are not wearing headphones, many of you are wearing headphones. Of course, the presentations will be in English, but we have the simultaneous translation, so I hope you're all getting good translations of what we're saying and what we're going to say over the next 2 days. Obviously, when you ask your questions, and we really hope you will ask very many questions, you can ask them in English, you can ask them in Arabic, because the translation is there. The second thing I wanted to talk about was we really want this workshop to be interactive. As Steve, our director, said, the interaction in the workshop is hugely important. We don't want it to be just us talking. We really want to hear your opinions, we want to hear your debates, we want to hear when you agree with us, we want to hear when you don't agree with us. But we really do want to get lots of very good discussion going. So please do relax and make it a very, very interactive workshop. The third thing I want to say is that I think all of you have seen in your demo packs a copy of this questionnaire. Do you all have that? Could you just check for me? Okay, I think you have. If you haven't, we can always sort that out later on. But these questionnaires, we need you to answer the questionnaires from your own experience. I'm going to talk a little bit more about them later on and why we're doing the questionnaires. But I do want you really, as we go through the 2 days, and from your own experience, to complete the sections on these questionnaires. It's very, very important information for us. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on if I may. In terms of the programme, it's a very ambitious programme. We have a lot to do in 2 days. Some of it is going to look at the very broad, big picture. Some of it we're going to look at from a very high level. But in other parts, we're really going to look down at very, very important operational detail. Now, time will forbid us from looking at the operational detail in great detail. You know, we have to be measured in the way we do this. But for example, we'll be looking at things like trade terms, contracting terms, Incoterms, shipping practice, letters of credit practice. But we'll be looking at them really from a top level. And, you know, maybe we'll be back one day to go into more detail on those subjects as our hosts here deem necessary. So finally, before we do the introductions around the tables, I would just like to sincerely thank our hosts, the National Economic Development Board, for hosting this occasion. We believe it's a very, very important occasion, and we are delighted to be in partnership with NEDB to deliver this workshop to you for the next 2 days. The programme for the workshop is really in 2 parts. Today you'll be hearing about trade facilitation and some of the details of shipping and contracting and supply chain security. And then tomorrow, what I think you'll find a hugely engaging section will be on the single window environment, and that will be delivered by my colleague Gary Koppelmotor. And then we finish off tomorrow afternoon looking at some trade finance issues. So please, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to do now is go around the tables, and we really don't have very much time. So if I could ask you to give a very, very brief introduction, just your name and the organisation that you represent, that will really help us in the sessions that we're going to continue with shortly. So if I may, I'll start with our own team on the table over here with some very brief introductions.
Morning. My name is Eric Okamoto, and I will be co-presenting with John, but most of my presentation will be tomorrow. John is a trade facilitation expert. I'm more of a niche expert focused on the single window. I just wrapped up managing the design of the Vietnam single window, but I've worked in other countries on single window design and implementation. So we'll talk more tomorrow about single window, some of the challenges, best practices, as well as case studies. And tomorrow I will also show you a real live single window, because sometimes that's the most important. Seeing a real IT system, single window, makes it feel very real for people and helps them understand the nature of what it involves. I'll pass it on.
Good morning. My name is Andy Taylor, and I'm the newly appointed country manager for Libya. I've been here just over a week, so I'm very, very new to this. I hope to be able to reach out to you and interact with many of you, if not all of you, in the coming months. Thank you.
أنا اسمي فارس الشرطة، نشتغل مع كراون ايجنز في البزنس ديفلوبمنت.
عادل محمد العجلي، مدير مكتب العلامات التجارية في وزارة الاقتصاد.
معتز بالله عبد الله، موظف مكتب الشباك.
أطهير عيسى الجازوي، مدير إدارة الشؤون الاقتصادية بغرفة التجارة والصناعة طرابلس.
خالد الزايدي، مدير حاضر مركز أعمال طرابلس في البرنامج الوطني لمشروع صناعة الشخص.
السلام عليكم. فريد المشري، مدير حاضر التقنيات الزراعية والحيوية برنامج مشروع صناعة المتوسطة.
سلمى اليمني، سكرتيرة فهمي المقريف تبع دراسات الاقتصاد.
الموحد، مستشار شؤون البحرية مصر الثانية.
صباح الخير، أبو بكر الأزهري، مدير إدارة تجارة الهيئة العامة للبيئة.
أمير زبلوط، ريليشن شيب مانجر، إدارة شركات ومؤسسات المالية مصر بالأمان.
ربيع عياد، قسم التجارة السفارة الملكية.
السلام عليكم. عبد الحميد الطيب، رئيس المجلس.
السلام عليكم. عمر جواشي، مدير شؤون الموانئ مصلحة الموانئ والنقل البحري.
السلام عليكم. مدير عصر، مدير مكتب الشؤون القانونية بمركز الصادرات.
الدكتور أسامة البير، مركز المعلومات الاقتصادي.
السلام عليكم. مهندسة فوزية من مكتب الإخراجات مركز البحوث الصناعية.
إلهام السراج من المركز الوطني للمواصفات والمعايير القياسية.
ميسون مختار الساق من ديوان المحاسبة.
السلام عليكم. زياد محمد الأب، ملازم أول مصلحة الجمارك، الإدارة العامة للشؤون الفنية.
السلام عليكم. عبد الغفار فتح خلف، مركز المعلومات والتوثيق الاقتصادي.
المهندس عبد الله مفتاح، رئيس مكتب خدمات المستثمرين بالهيئة العامة للتمليك وتشغيل الاستثمار.
خالد صالحين الجوهري، مدير إدارة الشباك الموحد بتشغيل الاستثمار.
محمود سالم يوسف، الأكاديمية الليبية، أستاذ محاضرة.
شهاب صبري، أستاذ محاضرة جامعة طرابلس.
محمد طاهر القدافي، شركة الاسترلاب التوكيلات الملاحية.
الدكتور صلاح العبيدي، المؤسسة الليبية للاستثمار.
السلام عليكم. عبد الرؤوف القاضي، مصلحة الجمارك، قسم الشؤون الفنية.
طلبات مبروك صار أبو رايح، الإدارة العامة للشؤون الفنية ورجال مصلحة الجمارك. حاج إلهام، رئيس قسم التعاون الأوروبي بوزارة الخارجية.
حسين أبو بعير، مشروع شبكة ليبيا التجارة، تابع لوزارة الاقتصاد.
السلام عليكم. عبد الملك بشير ولاد، مصلحة الجمارك، قسم الإجراءات الجمركية بميناء طرابلس.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم. عبد الناصر محمد، شركة الاسترلاب للتوكيلات الملاحية.
السلام عليكم. ناجي إبراهيم للوز، شركة الموانئ، مكتب الرقم المعلومات.
السلام عليكم. مصطفى كريميد، مهندس اتصالات مصلحة موانئ النقل البحري.
السلام عليكم. سارة الشباح من مكتب الشؤون القانونية والعاصفة الدولية.
Shukran. Thank you very much indeed for those introductions. The first thing I want to say is that that works very, very efficiently. We do these workshops in different countries, and in some countries that I won't mention, as soon as you give the microphone to someone, you can't get it away from them. So I think this bodes very well from the workshop, that everyone was very, very clear and very succinct in what they had to say. What occurs to me is that there's a wealth of experience in this room. When we carry out trade facilitation workshops, our dream is to have all the stakeholders involved in trade in one room, because of the linkages, which I'm going to talk about later on. But it can be very, very hard to achieve that. What I've heard this morning when you introduced yourselves is that we actually do have all the representatives, I think, of all the various stakeholders of shipping, I think of banking, of customs, of standards, of economic development, of single window, of ICT, and the businesses themselves, which is hugely important. So I really am looking forward to a very vibrant and, importantly, a very, very interactive workshop. Please do relax. I should have said that right at the beginning. We like these workshops to be very, very informal. We like everyone to relax, so please relax, do be comfortable, and please allow me to start off with just a little bit about Crown Agents and what we do. Before I do that, I think it would be nice if we could just have a few rules for the next 2 days, only because we have a great deal of material to cover. And I'm worried that I sound a bit like a school teacher when I say these things, but I'm going to say them anyway. There's a lot to cover, so please do arrive promptly for the sessions. That's very important. We'd be very grateful if you could switch mobile phones to silent. I know that's a very, very big thing to ask everyone because you're all very busy people. But if you could switch phones to silent or meeting mode, that would be very useful. Do ask questions. You know, I think I've said it 3 times so far because I do want to enforce this. We really want the sessions to be very, very interactive. So please ask questions and give information and comments from your own experience. We do want to hear your experience. Above all, please do relax and please enjoy spending the next 2 days with us, because I know we're going to enjoy spending the next 2 days with you. A little bit about Crown Agents. Crown Agents has been around for a while. We started our life in 1833. I haven't been, despite my grey hair and my little hair, I haven't been around that long, but the organisation is a very, very long-established organisation. We were part of government until 1997, when we were fully privatised, and now we are a prime international development organisation. We deliver capacity building and institutional development services. We have 40 offices around the world, and Crown Agents is actually owned by the Crown Agents Foundation, which is a charitable foundation. The structure is basically like that. I don't need to talk too much detail about that, but only to say that the Crown Agents is a commercial organisation, that surplus funds made by Crown Agents go to the Crown Agents Foundation, and those funds are used for charitable purposes. We operate globally. We operate in the developed world, the less developed world, and the developing world. And I guess the great benefit from that is that we can bring developed world experience to the work we do in the developing world. So global best practice is something that we talk about a lot wherever we're delivering our work. And on the screen there, you don't need me to read through it, you can see it on the screen. Those are examples of where we've provided technical input in relation to customs and trade facilitation. As you can see, it's global. Having said it's global, Africa and the Middle East are very, very core areas for Crown Agents. We run a lot of different trade facilitation programs. And they can operate in different ways. And just to give you a very, very quick overview, these are typical elements of one of our trade facilitation programs. Not all the programs contain all these elements, but all the programs do contain some of these elements. Strategy and planning, analysing requirements, very importantly, looking at business processes and re-engineering those processes to provide more efficient and more harmonised systems. We look at government-to-government connectivity, very important when you're looking at things like customs and security operations. We look at government-to-business connectivity, because we're very, very clear in the Customs and Trade team in Crown Agents that the traders are the key customers. It's the importers and the exporters that matter. And unless we listen to these people, and we do very, very regularly, and hear what they have to say, then no trade facilitation programme would work. So for us, it's terribly important to listen to what the traders have got to say and understand their needs. And I'll be talking more about that later on. We have to look at business-to-business connectivity, because trade facilitation works on a lot of linkages. And one of those linkages is businesses cooperating with other businesses. We look at regional initiatives, because more and more in the world, the regional economic communities are developing, and regional integration is becoming a fact of trade life and global trade facilitation. I'm not going to steal any of the words that Eric will be talking about tomorrow, but we have IT solutions. And I won't say any more about that, because I am the most I'm not IT literate whatsoever. Our expert Eric is, so I won't say anything wrong now. I'll let Eric say it all correctly tomorrow. We get involved very heavily in training, in capacity building, and very, very importantly in change management, because changes don't happen by accident, and they don't happen by people giving instructions. They happen by very, very careful change management processes. And obviously, if you like, an endpoint of all our projects has to be monitoring and evaluation. We need to be clear that we've done the right thing and we've done it in the right way, and importantly, that it's sustainable. So those are typical elements of one of our trade facilitation programs. I think my director, Steve, alluded to this earlier on, but our support is multi-layered. So we work at strategic level, on a national basis with governments, on a regional basis with regional groupings, like the European Union, the East Africa Community, the ASEAN Community in the Far East, and all the other communities. We are privileged and very fortunate that we sit on organisations which enable us to influence trade policy. For example, UNCFAT and the International Chamber of Commerce. Those are organisations where we take an active part, and they listen to us. So unusually, and it does put us in a very privileged position, we can actually influence international trade policy and global trade policy by talking about what we consider to be best practice from our own experiences, and importantly from other organisations' experiences as well. We look at cross-border mutual recognition and understanding issues. And again, I won't talk more about that now, because I will talk about it later on when I talk a little bit about supply chain security. National agency coordination, agency capacity building, and really right down to what we call frontline counterpart working. I'm going to slow down a bit because I think the translators may be struggling a little bit. So what I mean by counterpart working is, for example, in some of our customs modernisation projects, we deal strategically with customs at a very high level and Commissioner General Director level. But if the requirement is such, we will also be on the borders and hold the hands of the officers operating at the ports, the airports, and the land borders to really help them understand best practice and help them in their desire to achieve best practice. Stakeholder involvement is hugely important in trade facilitation, and it's a bit of a theme which will follow through some of these presentations. Trade facilitation and international trade involves many, many different stakeholders, and I think that's clearly evidenced by the group of people we have here today. Representatives from government, from the private sector, from insurance, from shipping, from banking, from standards. And if you take any one of those elements out, trade facilitation won't work. It's the linkages between them that become hugely important. So we believe stakeholder engagement at all stages in a trade facilitation programme is really probably the most important aspect. Looking at some of our products, and again, I don't need to talk in great detail about these because some of these we're going to be talking about in more detail later on, but there you have a typical list of the kind of things we get involved in. Single window, Eric's going to talk about tomorrow, one-stop border posts, and the list is there. But the real point I want to make there is that all of them are linked together. You know, they're all very important in their own way. And, you know, people sometimes say to me, which is the most important product? None of them. The answer is none of them.